Welcome to William the Bastard Reveals. My name is William the Bastard. Today, we're going to be discussing counter tactics to psych ops, black ops, remote neural monitoring, mind control, program and cell phone application abuse, hacking and merging apps, and the lingo of remote neural monitoring and what it means. Here in Mother Nature, we can see the substance, the rawness, the purity of Earth. Nature, they say, is medicine. The Indians believe this, the Native Americans, as well as the Aboriginal Australians. Everything emanates a frequency. Just like the frequencies, we are sent as targeted individuals, which reverberates our voice to skull. And we can hear people talking at a distance through the Gwyn towers and the power lines through EMF frequency. Nature too has a frequency. So my first counter tactic tip today is kind of keep that in mind. Put yourself in places, even if you live in a major urban environment. There's always a city park or a stand of trees, or if you can kick ass, don't even worry about the crackheads back there, kick them out. Just a joke. We have to keep lighthearted and light up the fact that every day we live, we are at least minimally attempted to be tortured by our perpetrators. This is counter tactics and the language of the electronic stalker.
Hey, hello everyone. Welcome once again to William the Bastard Reveals. This is a public service citizens alert I'm putting out in regards to remote EEG, remote neural monitoring, and brain and pathway tracking. Mapping the thought process via remote devices. I've talked a little bit about this before, but I want to get into the actual meaning of it. In concordance with energy and remote weapons, radio frequency, voice to skull, brainwave mapping allows trackers and stalkers to actually reverse your memory and your thought patterns, and during your sleep, in your subconscious mind, actually probe your memory banks and the memory banks of others around you or others that have known you, to obtain information that you might find yourself wondering just how they obtain that, stuff that you may not have even thought of in years. It really is amazing, the capability of these new technologies. Of course, they're available through programs, computer applications, phone applications can be delivered via phone. Let's not forget Gwyn Towers, the higher-ups, NSA, CIA, psych ops intelligence groups. Brainwave mapping is the ultimate in brain policing. It can really psych you out. If you're a targeted individual that's experienced voice to skull and brainwave mapping, you definitely know this from experience, and it's not a very pleasant thing to endure. Most people cannot come out unscathed mentally, oftentimes physically. Many people that are dealt this degree of targeting, in the long run, wind up dead, and they say in most cases they are targeted for elimination, and that's why. They trace your hemispheres, and they play what I call the coin game, flipping back and forth positive and negative polarities in your thoughts, saying you're either to this way, to that way, you're not guilty enough, you're too guilty, you're not sorrowful enough, you're too sorrowful, you're not angry enough, why aren't you angry, are you a pussy? And these are all baiting tactics to psych you out and to provoke a reaction out of you. That way you are the deliverer of your own doom as a target, and they have to put forth very little effort. It's not that targets like older, elderly people, young kids, teenagers, women, people that are physiologically less strong than, say, a full-grown man, don't experience face-to-face gang stalk activity and harassment. They do. Even people that are capable of defending themselves do, although it is done a little bit more discreetly, usually by the delivery, people nearby, neighbors, etc. With all of these black ops and psych ops tactics in concordance with remote neural monitoring, it allows the targeters to put the target into a state of hypnosis. Superimposing is one of the most common things they do. Now, when I say superimpose, for lack of a better definition, that means actually placing an image in one's head that stirs thought into a certain category or direction for them to obtain information. Many of the intelligence that they obtain are done during psych outs from the target themselves. You'll find yourself ruminating through thoughts over your head and knowing that your thoughts are being analyzed by your trackers. And you'll forget that you disclose certain things in your thoughts to them, and then they'll use that as leverage and psych out material for future attacks. Superimposing is a form of memory installation. They can actually superimpose images and memories into your head that you never had, especially in concordance with drugs and hypnosis methods that are commonly used in psych ops all the way back to COINTELPRO and MKUltra. Remote neural monitoring allows, you got to understand, there's as many neurons as there are stars in the galaxy in a human brain. And remote neural monitoring takes a long time to really master, even for them. So chances are, before you are a victim of voice to skull and thought control manipulation, remote control thinking, you've been tracked and watched and listened and traced for quite a while to gather that intelligence to even begin with to start the tortures to work against you. Let me check and see if we're still rolling tape. I gotta constantly check that. Okay, superimposing, we got that. Impulse signaling. There's such a variety of impulse signals. There's as many various types of impulse signaling as there are phone numbers in the phone book. And as technology has progressed and hackers have merged apps and other things together to develop more effective psych ops weapons. Impulse signals can be sent to get a reaction out of you physiologically, give you an itch. Many people complain of burns, pains in various parts of their body. I've experienced this to lesser of a degree, but I've been known to have an extremely high tolerance for pain. Other people aren't so fortunate. They will attack your weak spots. They can see your weak spots. They know of your health issues by tracing the firing of the synapses and various other activities that happen in the brain hemispheres. They know exactly where to look to elicit a response through pain, sexual pleasure. They have lavatory impulse signals. They have impulse signals that motivate you or demotivate you from doing or not doing certain tasks. Impulse signaling is vital to remote neural monitoring. Yes, this is what they call it. How did I get the correct terms that perpetrators use during these remote attacks with remote neural monitoring? Well, some people have higher sensitive hearing, and that brings us into the range of frequency. Some people are psychic, have hypersensitive hearing, or their perception levels are sharper at other times than other people's are. And I happen to be fortunate enough that I was able to begin to hear the exact terminology these people use, and was silent about it, didn't even think about it in my thoughts until I gathered the intelligence enough to know what they were meaning by these terms. Impulse signals, they can sexually excite you, as I've disclosed. They can make you hungry. They can make you want to be active. They can decrease your hyperactivity or your motivation. There's just, like I said, the possibilities are as countless as the stars in a modern gain stalk as to the capabilities of impulse signal. All the while, they'll be running, superimposing and impulse signals together. That way they say, aha, you're thinking about the time you stole tires when you were a teenager from a gas station. This is just one example. And they want you to feel guilty about it. And they'll flash the vision of a tire or even your own memory that you had of doing this, and then try to manipulate you, saying that, thievery is a felony. They'll accuse you of all kinds of stuff. Many of these people are perverted, extremely perverted people that are involved in voyeur circles and illegal surveillance and capturing footage of people in the shower, people using the restroom, people having sex and copulating with their partners, people engaged in masturbation. These are perfectly natural bodily functions, but if they can find a way to make you feel guilty for it, by golly, they're going to. This is the goal, or one of the goals, of psych operations and remote neural monitoring and manipulation and thought control. And also easily puts you in that two-sided, what I call flipping the coin, right brain and left brain, being extreme to one extreme or another. You're either too angry, not angry enough, either you're a raging lunatic that needs committed, or you're a pathetic coward pussy. Let's draw the line between the target and the gain stalkers. First of all, these are the people that are watching you in your bathrooms. These are the people that are watching you copulate with your partners and have sex, and they're watching you in your personal business everywhere you go. Through kinetic tracking, loaded into a network, the movement of your breathing, your heart rate. You can be tracked anywhere. People with hypersensitive hearing and psychic abilities will hear the transmissions and the impulse signals and voice to skull actually going into their ears, moving down their ear canals, a tingling sensation or heat sensation, or even tickling of the ear hairs. For others, they're not so fortunate, and you got to understand these are delivered on various levels of frequency. The higher the frequency, the more intended that is for the target's subconscious to grasp hold of that, because you will not notice it consciously, voice to skull. If it's at a high enough frequency, it'll just go straight into your brain, and in some way you'll acknowledge it, but won't be completely cognizant of that. And that's another way that they can get you to stir up thoughts in concordance with superimposing and impulse signals. Dividing one's thoughts means to get you off a certain track of thinking, to stir you back toward a direction they want, tweaking your suspicious thinking and your nervousness impulse. And that's a way to get you to feel fearful. They were doing that just then, by the way, of repercussions should you take certain courses of action to prevent you from doing certain activities. Also, there is scrambling the thought process, which is totally discombobulating your train of thought in concordance with voice to skull. Do you see how all these are done, and they work together? In order for them to be ultra effective, ultra produce best result for targeters and perpetrators. If they can sync those up in time, in real time, that's idea for them. And today's programs, applications, and equipment and frequency deliveries allow them to do just that. So if you were wondering how some of this stuff was done and what it was actually called, look no further. This is it. These are the actual terms, scientific terms that these people use. They will also go in accordance with diet, ingestion of drugs. People have been drugged. Ethanol, actually it's called lethanol, is a popular poison for game stalkers to use. It's not commonly traceable or looked for, and it's also a euthanizing agent used to put out injured animals, horses, etc. Lethanol is, of course, deadly, and they can make it line up these types of poisons with food ingestion, prescription drug ingestion, to make you look dead. And if you don't believe me, ask Abby Hoffman. This is exactly how he was eliminated. He was stalked by COINTELPRO back in the 1970s. Super activist. He was civil rights activist, war protester, one of the founding members of the Youth International Party, known as the Yippie Party, or the Yippies, where the hippies kind of get their name, where they made the transition from beatnik to hippie. As a matter of fact, later in the mid-70s, during the Ford administration, the leave-behinds in certain branches of the Youth International Party, the Yippies, would become known as the Zippies, and certain other breakaway groups. To get back on track, remote neural monitoring is absolutely the worst torture, the worst pain, the worst emotionally and damaging, scarring experience I've ever had in my life. It really has come very close on numerous occasions of causing me to make critical errors in judgment, and this is especially before I knew the lingo, what was going on here, and some of the tactics. It's totally fucked me up in my life, excuse my French, but it has. And I'm sure other targets can concur with what I'm saying here. I'm going to come back here in a second with counter tactics, counter psyops, counter targeting. This is going to be a long episode, but very informative. Thank you for watching William the Bastard Reveals. I'm going to have an eyewitness that experienced voice-to-skull frequency who's not a target, just because he happened to be in my general vicinity, in my area. And if I can get his testimony this morning, that's what we're going to work on. If not, I'll have to accept the broken video from the other day that I got of him when my camera equipment was being zapped with remote electronic and microwave weapons, such as you can see posted, if you scroll down the feed, on the Bastard's television's wall. Thank you very much. Thing we have to understand about game stalkers and electronic harassers is that they run in several circles, loosely connected, sometimes unaware one to the other. One circle or one individual from a circle will pass it on to the next circle of game stalkers. And that is why transmissions and the frequencies of tortures have increased over the last several years through the advent of smartphones and programming technology, ever improving daily as we live, has just made these things more effective and to hone in on the targets much more easily. These are run like Ponzi scams in effect, or a pyramid scheme. And that is one way to look at the whole game stalking phenomenon, is even circles that think they have their personal motivations for targeting you are often influenced unknowingly or at least an individual or two in their circle, is influenced unknowingly by a previous circle going on back down the line. You can tell when your life took a turn for the worst, and that is more than likely when you first started experiencing subliminal transmission and psychotronic weapon attack, misdirectional tweaking that had set you off course. So most targets can at least remember a time in their life like this. Don't buy into too many conspiracy theories. Keep in mind what you experience as facts unto yourself. Don't think that this is going to be accepted publicly just yet. It took homosexuality many, many years before you seen the first legal gay marriage. It took black people many, many years before they were able to march in public and not have to go to the back of the bus to sit. It took the hippies many, many years to become a fashion and cultural trend, initially being disdained as very filthy, very looked down on, socially niggardly peoples. So as time wears on, more and more acceptance to the phenomenon will happen and increase, and keep your hopes up and your chin up about it. And remember not to fear. Okay, folks, how you doing today? William the Bastard here. First thing we need to understand about combating black operations and psych ops, fake outs, and remote EEG, remote neural monitoring, noise harassment, electronic harassment, all and any of the above, etc., is to understand the way it's done. And since we have an understanding of some of the tools and how these tools can be forged to deliver attacks on us targeted individuals, we have to understand basic street psych ops and psych ops from experience, and psych ops also from a tactical standpoint that are being used against us. Another way of delivery. You got to understand that with remote EEG, phones, computers, sync cords, which are cameras that are on the end of cords the size of the ones on cell phones or smaller, sync speakers, reverberation devices, which travel down tubular like carrying the sound of speakers from other locations. This could be done with PVC pipe noise manipulations. You've got to understand, in most cases, gain stalks, all these things are being utilized and pretty much in coincidence with one another. I'm having my misperceptions tweaked. I don't mind disclosing that on video right now. They want me to overlook particular items that could help other TIs. Okay, to get down to the point, you have to be very assertive. Resist. Listen carefully, because not all TIs are sensitive enough to pick up subliminal frequencies. I'm not always either. At times I am. If you're fortunate enough to be able to pick them up sometimes, good for you. Use those to the best of your advantage to gather counterintelligence. Be very quiet. Keep your thoughts empty. And if they're speaking in vocabulary that's unbecoming of you, those are words you don't use, but pay close attention to those words and phrases in particular, as later on in your stalk they will be invaluable. The best time to start gathering intelligence for your gain stalk is as soon as you realize you're receiving the voice to skull and other forms of remote neural torture.
turning around the game, taking advantage of opportune moments to reverse connecting fear, or reverse connect their fears, as I call it, on your harassers, on your perpetrators. Sometimes, believe it or not, even though they have this all-powerful thought reading equipment, memory reversal, basically everything you think, say, or do is recorded through remote neural monitoring and mind control. There are times when this isn't working so good. Whatever have you, whatever reason, whether you've built up a tolerance or resistance to it, as certain, just very few TIs do, or whether that is that your mind is so actively alert and aware of what you're enduring and how it's being done, that they just simply can't fake you out. At these times, believe it or not, they're just not as powerful. They don't have the all-seeing sight or eye that you think they do. And if your harassment happens to coincide with local harassment in concurrence with your remote harassment and tracking, take those opportunities late when nobody's around, everybody else is asleep. You know the harassment's going to come on. To secretly record them, to secretly psych them out. Yes, you do, indeed, have to get dead dog dirty to counter-psych the people that are psyching you out, the people that are faking your mind out, the people that are analyzing your thoughts. You got to do things just as tactically as they do. If you have members of your family that don't support you as a TI, that don't acknowledge the torments you endure, play along. That's my best advice, because they're trying to split you up, even if that person is not involved directly in your gain stalk. And even if they are, that just, especially if they're aware of that, they will be caught by you. You will have your unrefutable proof. They will expose themselves. With patience, my most local harassers have been exposed. It's pretty evident that they dwell in between the walls. Their equipment dwells in between the walls and rafters. Same chords as we talked about earlier. Valuable advice to all targeted individuals and victims of remote neural monitoring. Avoid daydreaming. Avoid too much contemplation or unproductive or even counterproductive dazing out. These are times when you are most susceptible, and they will get you. Just like in your sleep, it's very hard to resist impulse signals and other psych operations that are being used against you in states of sublimation, such as sleep. You're just simply more, since your harassers are playing you and making you look absurd. It's time to take the very things that they say and insult you with and play reverse connect a word. In other words, use all and try to remember all of the words, the redundant words, the trigger words. Don't pay too much attention. That's what they want you to do. That's how they lure you in. But keep in mind the insults, the points that they make against you to make you feel bad, to humiliate you, and to slowly psychologically break you down. Use those very same tactics through your thoughts. If you cannot be loud and you feel you're being
video surveyed or audio surveyed. Use your very thoughts to return their insults and show no mercy at all in using the most disgusting languages and threats that they use against you. If you happen to know big people, most people do know somebody that's been involved in criminal activity or the underworld at some point in their life. And even if you don't or don't have access to people, make them think you do. Reverse psych ops their threats against them through your thoughts. Don't play into their game. Don't incriminate yourself. They're doing plenty of that for us. So there's no need to make their job easier. Because, well, we all know why. It will incriminate you. Chances are where you live is heavily surveyed by visual and audio equipment, various types. Your psych operations, your reversal psychs, and reversal gain stalks and surveillance are effective is if they try to razz you for doing it. That's one sure sign you're making progress. Don't doubt yourself. Do everything you can. These people love to stir controversy in our lives. They love to see us fail. You can set them up for failure too. They don't really hold the cards. They just want you to think that they do. And once you have realized these realizations, you not only hold the cards, you deal them and stack their decks. Their hands are useless. Second guessing. Second guessing is the most effective psych ops tactic that you can do. Second guess anything you do. Everything you do. Especially if it happens upon you suddenly. Chances are you were impulse signaled that. And you need to second guess it. I assure everyone that if you start second guessing your impulsive behaviors, you will reclaim more of yourself every single day. You will beat being targeted. Furthermore, you will put your assailants in a position that they are the ones, even if you're a lone target against many stalkers, you will put them in a position where they are in fact being stalked by you. Don't believe it can be done? Try any of the tactics that I've disclosed to you on this video, and you'll be surprised and very happy with the results. You know how in townhouses, okay, there's firewall, and then firewall and stuff like that doesn't just come loose on its own. Let me show you that it's not only next door, that my apartment, this is what I have found out, has been infiltrated from the outside, from soffits and gutters, from awnings. Listen, watch. Hear that wobble? That's the firewall. When I hear voices, it's local a lot of times. It's not always this big frequency thing. Not that we don't get voice to skull. But they want to tweak your misperceptions around you. This is all part of the operation to make you more susceptible to remote assault. Look around you. We're not all that unfortunate. We need to take a new position as TIs. Document everything, just as you've been given suggestions before. But counter-psych them. Do you know how to do that? Well, hopefully if the video didn't get deleted, I can give you more than one example of that. But let's just show you very quietly. Bumping all the time, right? Nobody seems to hear it but you, right, TIs? that's frozen and never let them know when. I could hear my voice to skull go mute up on that bump. A lot of these remote weapons have to be within a certain distance of a target to allow them the most effect. Counter-psyching. Setting up other people to call the police upon your assailants for various reasons. You may have to lie to good people. Indeed, you may. To combat the deceitful tactics of your gang stalkers. Use the bathroom. Okay? And then all of a sudden, with the lights out, run in the kitchen and slam the meat pounder, the meat hammer that you have, which tenderizes your steaks, your meat tenderizer. Take your hammer, take a mallet, drop something really loud, close to where that local harassment's emanating from. Slam a cabinet door. Do it randomly. Reverse connector noise. Yes, it does seem brutal to get back at these people the way we do. But this is the only way to teach them. We get threats to our lives, threats to our loved ones, threats to our children. These people had me convinced one time when I was away they were in the process of murdering my wife and children. They made all kinds of sickened, unbelievable claims, claiming they would have my children cannibalize me after they fed them drugs and raped them, that this is what they had planned for me. This is why I have no consideration or mercy toward my targeters. Okay, I encourage targets to use some of the same methods and tactics right back on their targeters, especially if they can either get their frequency signature, trace the frequency, trace the number from which the frequency is emanating from, trace to the tower, etc., etc. There's all kinds of ways. There's frequency tracers available out there. Use some of the same tactics to be as dirty as they are, because I don't think these people understand that are inflicting the damage on us exactly how tormented it is. Of course, here's another psych out method. Check this out. Okay, you just noticed the fridge went off. EMF, baby. Okay, check this out. Actually, the harassment's not been so bad for me tonight. Watch this. Kitchen drains, right? Kitchen drains are conductors. If you have a kitchen drain which adjoins to a suspected harasser, use this method. Sneak up in the dark and do it. Freak some motherfuckers out. If the people adjacent to you are the problem, or if you know where your harassers congregate or live at, use their same methods back on them. Totally psych them out. Don't get caught. Okay, everybody. I wanted to share some really early spy, MK Ultra, and COINTELPRO techniques that have been passed down and declassified to the public at large to have easy accessibility to game stalkers. They implement these tactics today. Some of them are so very simple that, quite frankly, when I started learning how they did it, I felt very ridiculous. And so, but I encourage you not to feel this way, as anybody can be psyched out. I mean, decent people aren't even thinking of these tactics to do on an average citizen or a free citizen of the American public. Psych outs are just dirty business and are usually left to the realm of spies and evil psychological warfare. turn up the speaker, you adjust the speaker to the volume. If you wanted to just be heard by one person in that general vicinity, you adjust the volume. And then the sound going to be delivered just like on one of the, how you played Canon a Strain when you were a kid, or some of the playground devices on modern jungle gyms. Now, you can add and continue to add until you reach your desired destination point. To deliver the sound. Okay, yes, it seems simple, and believe me, I know the feeling, probably what some of you were thinking. These can be ran under the skirting of trailers. Another way is PVC pipe. Okay, you can direct this stuff anywhere. The sound. Okay, you got the mic back here. Let me show you how psych outs go. Hey, your sister has a heroin problem. You know that, right? She got your credit cards that you had in your mail and envelope holder. She got them an hour after you left work, and she's running up your credit cards on crack. Okay, your sister just ran up thousands of dollars of credit that you're going to be responsible for. Or here's one of the favorite ones. Hey, do you know where your woman is tonight? She's with me. That's a psych out. Okay. Do you know what your daughter's doing? She's with 3 different dudes smoking crack. Now tell me if you didn't hear this stuff all the time, if it wouldn't drive you a little bit crazy. Furthermore, these sounds that are delivered so simply can be amplified into microphones and carried speakers that are mounted on certain devices that are radio controlled and can be remotely activated, actually heat signature activated upon the entrance of a particular target or targets into a room or vicinity. And we're going to get to one of the simplest methods known of these remote equipment being able to be delivered outside of state courts, to where they can get great footage, illegal footage, voyeuristic footage for sick people out there. There are sick groups that do these tactics and run cameras and stuff and sell the illegal footage online. So you got to be really careful, be alert. This stuff is really happening in our country, and I'm going to show you how they manage to control footage and move it about, pinhole to pinhole, crevice to crevice, little side hole to side hole in the walls of apartments and housing communities, townhouses, etc.
This around, you can get interference.
Right.
If someone turns on.
Hey folks, I wanted to show you something, as well as a friend of mine whose identity will remain undisclosed. My friend, tell me what we have here. Now this can be used for remote control cars, which can actually be used to carry surveillance equipment between rafters and cubbies, actual soffits and gutters in a house. Can you tell me why this particular control, in opposition to this particular control, this being more radio inclined influence, and you say this is more digital?
Yes. This is the old style, and it has it's run on AM, and if someone, you'll get interference with these if there's too many in the building, and especially if someone has the same color chip that will be the same frequency, and it will override your input with whatever input they're putting in the control.
So you're saying that, okay, say you take your remote control car, for example, which we all know can be used to carry stuff in rafters and soffits, gutters, underskirting of trailers and homes, some modulars and so on. This is a remote control car. Now, if I take the base off of this, you can see that I could easily put something in, especially if I shorten the axles on these wheels or had a different design. You could go from big to small. Yeah, you know how large industrial complexes will have big louvers and dampers and other havoc material ventilation systems. So the larger things like this could easily be guided via radio frequency. Now let's talk about, my friend, why I got you. This has been a hobby of yours for a long time, so you're just the guy I want to see about this. And I know these are used in game stalks. This is digital, and as we all know, digital is the new thing with TV broadcasting. There is no longer regular broadcast TV via VHF or UHF frequency. You agree with that, right?
Yes.
Okay, what can you tell me about this device that is superior and to this that is more radio inclined?
This one you won't get interference with. It's FM 2.4 gigahertz, and it's one of the newer ones out. And you can run on. You could have 100 cars in the same room, in the same building, and
they will recognize that signal. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, you won't get interference.
Man. And that just goes to show how far technology's come. Now, when's the first time you started seeing these? I bet it's been a while, hasn't it? Or has this become more common since TV went digital?
About 4 or 5 years ago.
About the same time.
And when they first came out, they were about $300. Now they're down to, you could buy this one probably for $100, maybe even less.
Okay. And that way, like say you were doing an EMF and microphone harassment, you wanted people to hear noises, maybe to psych them out, drive them crazy, in the very least form a really sick way to play a joke on somebody by moving stuff like this about in their home. Would you agree, from a scientific standpoint and from what you know and seen in the media and heard testimonies of people throughout the world, would you agree this absolutely possible with this type of equipment?
Yeah, as long as your battery that powers your receiver had power, you would be able to control it.
Hey, thank you very much, my friend.
Another thing that is common with remote neuromonitoring and mental tortures is identity games. You may notice, many GIs do, that harassers that use such applications, programs, and equipment often will pretend to be this person, or that person, or this person, or any number of identities. Sometimes they will pretend to be people we know or people we love that are betraying us. This is achieved through the use of voice apps and voice altercation technologies. Another thing that they do is talk about spiking a lot. Spiking this, spiking that, spiking happy, spiking indifference, spiking awareness, spiking guilty, spiking any number of things. Okay? This is in reference to their algorithmic charts, which read our brainwave patterns and have a list of our segmented hemispheres, our right and left brain, as well as our beta and our alpha waves in the various different segments of our brain. These spikes, they will often use certain psychological tactics to solicit from a target certain spiking patterns. It is said that this is done to prove the target insane by submitting as evidence the erratic brainwave patterns that they actually entice through superimposing, impulse signaling, voice to skull, and a various amount of psychops techniques. So what happens if the worst comes to worst and you're hospitalized in an institution or hospital because you have reported the symptoms of your remote neuromonitoring to a medical official? official or emergency room doctor. It is often that people such as this are committed for a minimum of 72 hours. In fact, under Ohio state law, you cannot be held more than 72 hours unless you are probated and declared mentally deficient, a threat to yourself, delusional, or a threat to others. You have to be severely psychopathic, or by your own voluntary stay. The doctor may recommend it to you that you stay voluntarily. I advise you that if you know you are sane and you are experiencing these things, that is the worst thing you can do. As then, you will surely have documented evidence that can be relegated to a mental disorder of delusional proportion. Also, you may be given a series of drugs, sedatives, or psychoactive chemicals and barbiturates while under your 72-hour observation. Do your best not to take these, or always press for a lower dose. Keep your thoughts clear, and never, in that whole entire period, let them know you're experiencing voice to skull or having any symptoms of remote weapons attacks or neuromonitoring. The reason I tell you these things is to avoid legal debacles in the future or putting yourself in a position that will discredit you. I myself have avoided declaration of such proportions and have yet to exceed a 72-hour period. In fact, the first mental doctor I chose to have myself evaluated by had actually heard of these sort of things before, and in fact gave me a test and declared me mentally fit. I was in the hospital less than a half hour. I want to elaborate a little on RF transmitters and how they're often used to loop devices like VCRs, DVD players, television sets, gaming systems all together. This is also, of course, nowadays what we would call a digital radio frequency transmitter. Runs through fiber optic wire to this antenna. This is a Radio Shack brand. Okay, these can be used against you if you use them in your home. And quite oftentimes, frequency has been known to get stronger for those that experience it when they get near. Hey, don't forget, please don't forget, tweeters. You know, these things right here. These things are great deliverers of piggyback and high frequencies, whether they be microwave or EMF. They're excellent for directing specified frequencies at a designated target. As I showed you with the other speaker trick before, don't forget, a lot of times when you do get voice to skull, sometimes it's not always voice to skull. They have a variety of methods to psych you out, to get you focusing on them so you are more susceptible to remote manipulations, which are far more effective the closer they are to the target. Okay, with the same principle, keep in mind of a receiver and a transmitter from the remote just shown on the electric cars and radio controlled devices. I want to show you how simple household appliances, this first one being a baseboard heater, can be used to receive and transmit signals to track and targeted individuals' voice to skull. Now, in here, you will see this round electrical fuse at the end of these. This covers a hot wire or the main power wire that juices into the system. This can be used as a receiver in the same exact principle as a radio controlled car, and why baseboard heaters conduct sound frequencies through EMF so easily is this coil system. See how this isn't even that old. This is a newer baseboard heater. This is just one example of how you might hear things, even sounds, body movements, for goodness sake, just as good as a microphone, especially if you are sensitive to frequency or a kinetic target that has voice to skull directed at you in concordance with psychops. This is just another revelation. Okay, because baseboard heaters are ran by electrical thermostats, let's get a look at the inside. They can also travel and emit impulse signals remotely and through frequency. Through these, just simply remove, unlike what I'm trying to do here, getting anxious, simply remove the thermostat. Remember, non-position, so you don't throw that shit off track, because then your wife's going to bitch. And believe me, you don't want that, or your husband, or whoever. And then you see down inside here in these crevices, they're blocked off, are a series of wires and sensors that emanate EMF frequency. And this is how you thermostatically control your baseboard heaters if you have them wired into your electrical system. They make great tools for the remote harasser to use. I'm not saying get rid of them, just be cognizant and acknowledging of them and their effects. A lot of times refrigerators will let off a certain hum. This is quite normal as the compressor kicks on and off. However, at times you will notice, if you are a targeted individual, your refrigerator will make a large amount of noise, sometimes a ping that you can actually hear. The same with deep freezers, microwaves, and toasters. We recently lost a series of appliances. First to go was this fluorescent light. This can also deliver EMF frequency. Our microwave blew, and then our deep freezer. We got power surges out the wazoo, and the electric company had to come out. Of course, most frequency is always delivered via your circuit breakers, is where it starts, and it clicks on in there, and it divvies out into your home appliances from that point. Of course, it has to have an outside source. This is our main breaker box. The other day, as I stated, the electric company had to come out. Our landlord called them to find out why our breakers, which are here, right here, were frying. Not completely blown, but frying from power surges. They had to replace them. If we continue to have power surges, which we have, which is due to EMF, we will call the electric company back. They had to replace our meter. And this is an 8-panel building, which means there's 8 separate townhouses. Alright, also, the clicking on and off of lights over in the hospital parking lot coincides with clicking in our house as well as at this power box. If you listen to the hum, you will hear the EMF frequency at a very high rate than usual. I could go next to any other power box in this building and it would not be this loud. This is how they deliver frequency to us. A couple of the other ways that people piggyback frequency to your automobile and to your house is via use of an AM/FM radio frequency transmitter. Basically, that takes your iPod or your MP3 and allows it to become wireless for your home stereo or your car stereo. These are easily piggybacked to deliver white noise and frequency into your MP3, headset, stereo, and car radio. Another trick that is often used is the delivery of ventilation systems, such as fans. Just like this one up here, your typical bathroom fan. Not only is it good to deliver local noise through ventilation systems and gain stalks, but it can also be used to deliver frequency for the coil wiring in the top. Okay, let's get a look also at the typical oven range hood. It's got, in this case, fan, a light. It has a ventilation system that carries noise for local harassers. And just like the bathroom fan, it has coil wiring up in there that allows for frequency delivery. Of course, small radios and light sockets, also really great for the delivery of frequency.
And other methods of remote psychotropic and psychotronic weapons, they are able to use your very focus against you. This is done via hack through what is known as an eye tracker. Eye trackers allow companies, businesses, the movie and music industry to actually see where a computer or remote phone user's eyes are focusing on that screen. It is an amazing piece of technology that has been out for years. The drawback is that eye tracking can also be used to get the printout, your eye print, which is an absolute identifier. That way, anytime you use a phone or PC, by your eye alone, some say they even have a way to manipulate that they can get somewhat of a vision through the sight of the target. When your computer or your phone is hacked, and its microphone and its video camera are took hold of by a remote user, that is now a surveillance weapon, a GPS tracking weapon, any number of things against a target. Most of the time, in game stalks, a target has his phone or her phone tapped. Maybe more than one of their phones, maybe all of them. Their computers, PCs, iPads, iPods can be used to track them anywhere, so long as they have it with them. Furthermore, just by listening through the mic, they can actually isolate a person's heartbeat and breathing signature. Once that's done, that is known as a movement or kinetic signature. That can be loaded onto a network that is closed except to authorized users. From that point out, regardless of whether you have a cell phone, computer, iPad, iPod, whatever on you, you don't need it. They can simply track you to your place by your very sound and the rate of your heart and breath or your vocal voice. Certain kinds of flashing up above the doorways and trim along the side of houses are a perfect place to hide tube delivery, speaker, noise harassment systems, as well as listening mics and surveillance equipment that can easily peep out in between the siding of a home or building. In the rear of my building is a perfect area which goes between the second story and the first story. It has ventilation exits It is a hollowed out area, perfect for climbing, even for a large man in this case, or moving about surveillance and spy gear, sync cords, and other devices which we've already covered. Just on the other side of the awning, entering the back door, is a large area of blank drywall for the cabinetry to hang from the ceiling. However, a large blank spot, which allows even further room from the awning outside, can be manipulated in building cases like this. The perfect hiding spot for equipment, large or small people, and no access to it. The pinholes stick out. Wanted to show you one of the greatest tools for game stalkers that are aware of this. It's very old Cyclops technique. You see that drain in the floor? Hey, that carries to underground PVC piping and at least metal piping, to say the least. It's a drain. If I am a few apartments away and this drain empties into the same... This is one of my several witnesses that has experienced voice to skull in regards to me. His name's Scott. We're not going to say his last name this time to protect his privacy. So, Scott, tell me the other day what you experienced in your apartment when you were alone with just the baby.
Well, I was in there, as Will said, with the baby, and he had gone up to bed, and I heard something that sounded like it was right there next to me, but I looked around and I made sure the neighbors wasn't getting into it, Will and his old lady, so I got nosy and I didn't hear them, and next thing I know, I hear it again. So
did it sound like it was right next to your ear, Scott, as if someone was almost whispering to you?
Yes, yes it is. And then they were trying to get me to come out or something, and I opened the door to look out, and I guess they lost frequency.
Did it sound like the hazing and the razzing they were doing up? Georgetown is the county seat of Brown County, Ohio. And because of this and all the law enforcement, medical personnel, Brown County Hospital being in my backyard, basically an air evac, airlift medical ambulance, there's Gwyn towers everywhere. Now we, as targeted individuals, have probably heard of Gwyn towers. They're multi-level. They have various forms of transmission. I hope I'm picking that up. It's very hard to see. Some final pointers and tactics that I'd like to share with everyone is try to keep your chin up, stay happy, continue to enjoy your life. Don't let these people manipulate you and prevent you from enjoying your day-to-day existence. And most of all, I notice more than anything, people fearing. It seems like targets are just scared to death. And it's easy to understand, especially when we don't know the elements of what we're really involved with and what we are facing and what we're up against. And I encourage targets to get over their fears and face their challenges headlong when it comes to these harassers. Don't be afraid to blast back at them in your thoughts, if nothing else, because you may be being surveyed, audio or video wise, and so it's important that you use your thoughts as your weapon. Let them know what scumbags they truly are in their thoughts and your thoughts, and send them right back at them. If you're sensitive enough or cognizant enough to know when these remote harassers are beginning or starting an assault on you,
immediately meet them head on. And remember, it is them who has superimposed an impulse signal to us. Their corrupt thinking, their corrupt thoughts. They are the ones who are guilty. They are the criminals. They are the ones who are illegally surveying us. We are not. One of my final tactics I'd like to give you is try to take a day or two off every week, where, if at all possible, you totally avoid thinking or dealing with anything to do with being a targeted individual. Separate yourself as much as you can. And I know this may be hard, but make an effort at least once or twice a week to give your mind, your emotions, and your body as much as a rest as you possibly can. I'll get into some more tactics in the next episode. Alright, everyone. You might ask, why is the bastard standing here in his own house, on camera, stark naked? True, I'm not advocating nudity or presenting it in any fashion. However, it is a point. Those of us who are targeted individuals, victims of gang stalking, and remote neural monitoring and thought control, are exactly as you see me at this moment, completely naked, unprotected, completely open to analyzation, completely open to humiliation. We know these things, and I don't have to reiterate them to you, as you who are watching this program realize these harsh realities from being, like myself, a targeted individual. As I said at the beginning of this program, everything is based off frequency. Everything is based off of signal. Everything emanates its own signal in nature. This is how animals are able to decipher before us, instinctually, to clear an area before a volcano erupts, or a major earthquake, or sometimes even forest fire breaks loose. It's time to do something known as reverse kinetic polarization. And this is where you, as the targeted individual, and me, us, all of us together, reconnect to who and what we were before we were influenced by psychops tactics. This is the ultimate psychops reversal. This is a secret that is working more and more for me every day, every single minute of every hour. I am continually getting better. I am continually putting myself in another position of command. Listen to me. We need each other. I need you. You need me as a TI, as targeted individuals globally. We cannot survive or persist or continue to endure tortures and harassments without helping one another. The reason that they do these spherical miracles that I spoke of, these tabulatable entrapments of thinking in the mind, is because everything in the universe has a specific cycle of rotation. Our brains, our hemispheres, have a specific design where remote neuromonitoring allows people to tabulate the frequencies of our brain, the firing of our synapses, just as one would predict the movements, the rotationary movements of the planets and the stars, or the cycles of the seasons. The difference is that us being targeted, someone else is planning the rotation of our cycles. This is where we as targeted individuals have to take the command seat. We have to reverse kinetic polarization, our frequency, and turn these negative experiences into absolute positive treasure troves of realization and awareness. Many TIs receive the voice-to-skull frequency, saying that their sense of self is faulty, that allows them to assert a certain dominance of power over you, saying that their will is over our own. Bullshit. It's time to reclaim who and what we are right now. The ultimate psych ops reversal. Consider yourself lucky to be a TI. Actually, consider yourself flattered. Someone, somewhere, at some point, has taken such an interest in you, invested so much money and time in you, that you have actually become a very important part of their life. Isn't that flattering? And truly it is. And from that standpoint, we can realize that point in our lives that we were at before our targeting, before we even realized we were being influenced. We were on the right tracks. Most of us as TIs. Most of us are very good people, relatively smart, insightful. Here's the thing. In order for us to win this and beat it, we have to do something known as visualization, guaranteed to bring materialization. Which means, despite the superimposing, despite the corralling of our thoughts, despite the stigmatizations that we endure, the imposed guilt, you gotta realize all of the fault ultimately is upon the targeters, the perpetrators, the ringleaders of these gain-stalk circles, from corporate enterprises to major government players to secret agencies, all the way down to simple gain-stalk thugs that are blackmailed or for whatever sick motivations have took an interest in you to either eliminate you or control you. Instead of being predicted into these cycles, these mind traps, instead of being ushered in to these mental corrals, instead of being spun as an album on a turntable, it is time for us to do the spinning. As TIs, I want you to share this. I don't speak out of arrogance. I don't speak out of vanity. I don't intend to profit anything. There's plenty of people that want to profit with useless products to further victimize us capitally, where we've been victimized spiritually, emotionally, and mentally as targeted individuals. There's plenty of people in this world to take advantage of us. And this is not only applicable to us targeted individuals, but we must understand, being pioneers of a sort, being the first to endure this sort of remote neuromonitoring and mind control, that the world at large is also targeted by corporations, targeted by governments, targeted by monetary trends, economic forecasters. Yes, it's time to take a whole new attitude and be grateful you are a targeted individual. Be grateful and happy because you're very, very important to these people. You are their life. Without the targeted individuals, these people have nothing further to drive and motivate them. When they impose guilt upon you, that is a reflection of their guilt, of their cognizance of wrongdoing. Take these things and realize that, and turn around your entire life into a positive experience. Let's no longer focus upon the tragedies, the torments, the terrible events, the loss of loved ones, the strained relationships that every targeted individual endures. No. Let's look at what we have gained. Let's look at what we can do. Let's reverse our frequency and set ours upon a path of success. From the pointing out of our faults and failures, they have failed to point out their own, yet have done so even more than we could have ever imagined by the very action of their perpetration of crimes against us. This is just the first step of the secret I'm going to expose to completely reverse psychops, to once again regain complete control despite satellite tracking, despite remote neural monitoring, despite the emotional scarring of tortures and the losses we have sustained. Focus on those no more. Those are stepping stones for you, my fellow brothers, my fellow sisters, who have been fortunate enough to be pioneered into this. Reverse kinetic your frequency. Turn your losses into gains. Spread this video. As my targeters have said, it's not a sense of arrogance he exuberates towards us. It's his sense of awareness. From that awareness, use this to your advantage. I don't want to profiteer this. I have nothing to gain in a vanity sense of the word. And I'm sure many of you are humble people and have been humbled by these assaults. I know this is lengthy, but this is the gift for those targets patient enough to wrestle through this. My videos have been zapped over and over and over again. I can't describe to you the difficulties I have faced time and again getting the simplest of these releases out. I don't focus on that. It's time for me and you, targeted individuals, my fellow brothers and sisters globally, to be grateful. Grateful that someone has took this much interest in you, to lift the blinders off your eyes. Like none other, us targeted individuals can see to the core of matters because of what we've endured. These are gifts of the soul. If you do not believe in a soul, speaking figuratively then, on a scientific standpoint, these are gifts from the very losses they know assures all of our gains. This is a line in one of my songs I wrote, known as Parable Heresy. This is also the name of one of my former bands. I'm reiterating to you this Parable Heresy tonight in hopes that this information to you will be invaluable. Visualization brings materialization. Visualize yourself in a better place, and we will be. Visualize that Congress and Senate, that local lawmakers from state to local, all the way to federal, start regulating the these remote technologies, these mind assaults. Let's make the best of it and realize our valued importance, not only to our targets who have prized us as entertainment, who have prized us as sources to make themselves feel better, and realize that we stand alone, and right doesn't need anything to lean on, for it stands up straight by itself. Right makes might, and might makes right, because it can never be mighty unless it is right to begin with. I love each and every one of you. Share this video. Share these counter-psyop tactics. Instead of getting trapped into these spherical thinkings and guilt trips, place the guilt where it truly belongs, upon our assailants, upon those who have wasted so much time, so much energy, so much money, and failed. We're not dead yet, and we didn't die soon enough that our voices or our testimonies were silenced. Be grateful for that. Thank you, targeted individuals everywhere. More on this and other psych ops reversals